I am that. That's the very first yoga mantra that I learned in South Lebanon in 2015 when I first started to practice yoga. I am that. Didn't really resonate with me. Who am I? That was an alternative one. And that sat a lot better with me. So when I did my pranayama, that was going through my head. But I was saying, who am I? I didn't have a clue who I was. A lot of you probably don't know who you are right now. I know I don't. But tonight, I'm here with you as Dee from the sea. It's one aspect of who I am. It's the social media presence. And I suppose you could say it's the love of my life. So I'm the swimmer. I've always been the swimmer, really. Specifically endurance swimmer. I swam the English Channel in 2019. I've almost swam the North Channel. I didn't quite get there. I've done a little bit of ice swimming. My longest being a kilometre in Antarctica. And I've dabbled with a little bit of free diving under ice in Finland for the last 2 years. So channel swimming generally generates the biggest questions. I know up till a few years ago in Galway probably wasn't that well known. And I know the very first year, so when I did the English Channel initially, we had this massive WhatsApp group and people didn't really know the answers. My parents didn't even know the answers. I think someone asked them, but will she stop for breaks? And they said, yeah, I guess she will. But you don't. There's rules with channel swimming. You've got a boat coming along beside you. That's your pilot boat. They're leading your course. You can't touch that boat. You do have a crew on the boat. They're there to look after your well-being. They're there to make sure that you're okay and you're fed. For me, I get my feeds by way of a bottle getting thrown in every hour. That bottle just has some warm water and carbohydrates in there. It's tied onto a string so that I don't litter in the sea. And it's if they miss the first time, they can reel it back in. Your crew are constantly watching you. So for my swims, I wear just a swimsuit. There's no neoprene allowed. So that's another question that can often come up. Surely you wear a wetsuit. What kind of wetsuit do you wear? Actually, no, I just wear a swimsuit, and I often choose a bikini because I find that more comfortable. You're only allowed to wear one swimming hat, goggles, earplugs, and lights. Why would you need lights? So channel swimming often includes swimming in the dark. And the reason for that is you pick your start time. Well, you don't pick your start time. You book a slot whenever you can get a slot. And that's the length of a neap tide, which is dependent on the moon and where it is. That'll dictate the length of your neap tide window wait. It's usually about a week. And then in that, you look at the tide. So this year for the North Channel, I went at high tide from Robbie's Point near Donaghadee. And the high tide in that neap window that gave me the best chance to swim was at 6 a.m. So I didn't need any lights. When I did the North Channel, I did have lights because I started at 1 a.m. And then the next question that people are going to ask, but why? Why do you do it? It sounds like a lot of hardship, and it is, but I love it. It's somewhere that I've really found my happy place. Swimming for me started when I was 4 years of age. It started here in Galway and Leisureland, back in the day of the public hour. My parents told me that I sat on the edge of the pool, refused to get in for the majority of that public hour. Then the 5-minute whistle went off, and I was like, oh, I better do it, and in I went. And then they couldn't get me out. And I think there was a sound lifeguard on that day who said, you can stay on for the next hour. And since then, it's always been about the water. I swam in Shark Swim Club. By swimming in Shark Swim Club based in Salthill, naturally I went across to the diving towers, jumped off, swam out to the raft. The raft used to be a little bit closer to the diving towers than the first buoy is now. And I was a big sea swimmer because, I did that. I also grew up near Loch Corrib, so I had the lake there. Another nice open water experience for me. There's two people specifically that I crossed paths with at that time, Kevin Thornton and Ronan Collins. They're the people who reinvigorated the Galway Bay swim as we know it today. And I looked up to these guys. I thought they were great. I got into triathlon. They did triathlon. In 2011, I met Ronan Collins, and I doubt he remembers this conversation, but he said to me, "You should do the Galway Bay swim." So I said, "Okay, I'll do the Galway Bay swim." I wanted to do it. I didn't think I could do it, but if Ronan said I could do it, fair enough, let's do it. So in 2012, I did the Galway Bay swim for the first time, and that's when I became a marathon swimmer, like so many people here in Galway are, because when you do a swim over 10 kilometres, you're a marathon swimmer. Now, that first experience, I was in a wetsuit, took me over 5.5 hours. We had horrendous conditions. I hated it. I remember getting up the steps at Black Rock, just happy that I made it and hadn't gotten pulled from the water, and I said, I'm never doing that again. Not a hope. And then the next year, my friend said she wanted to get into some sea swimming, so of course I did that with her, and I said, how about we go on a holiday? I've heard about these holidays where you go away and you swim. So I booked a holiday to Croatia, specifically picked the one that I thought she might like, and then she said, I can't actually go. So I still went and did that holiday. I discovered swimming in skins. I discovered clear water. In Croatia, there's clear water where you can actually see all the way down to the deep bottom, and the water was a bit warmer, and I loved it. And when I came back from Croatia, I was swimming in Black Rock all along the prom in skins, and I loved it. So we're on. But I went overseas again. So 2015 brought me to South Lebanon. When I go away on my overseas trips with work, I get really nostalgic for home, and I think about, how great it is, and I feel really patriotic, and it gets me in the notion of saying, yes, now's the time to do that Galway Bay swim, and I'm going to do it in skins. So back I went to the Galway Bay swim, and I did do it in skins, but a lot happened in between. This was a super experience. I think I was less than 4 hours swimming. I felt completely confident, enjoyed every bit of it, because I'd done loads of training in the lead up to it. And in that training, I'd gone for a week-long training camp to Majorca, and that's where I met another backer. I met Cliff Golding, my channel mentor, and he said, and I know for a fact he doesn't remember this because he's told me since, he said, Dee, you will be a channel swimmer. And I was like, okay, Cliffy, I'll be a channel swimmer. He meant a relay. So the following year, I went off to Formentera to do my 2-hour qualifying swim for an English Channel relay. I was swimming away and I loved it. So everyone else, the people who were doing solos were doing 6 hours, so I just kept swimming. And that's how I got on the road to the English Channel. My English Channel was a super experience. I was blown out of my window of my neap tide. So 3 weeks after the date I thought I'd be swimming, I actually swam the English Channel on a spring tide. But I had Cliffy there with me, so I knew everything was going to be okay. And it was. And after almost 15 hours of swimming in water that was 17 degrees at its coldest and 19 at its warmest, Cliffy came up the beach behind me in Wissant in France, and he said, congratulations, Dee, welcome to the club. You're a channel swimmer. And that was amazing. That's the swim where I learned to celebrate the great things that you do. But I still struggled with it, and I passed it on a lot to my crew. I said, I couldn't have done it without my crew. And I didn't really accept that I was that person who didn't give up. Because I come from a military background. I have the unique experience of having done a 33.5-month-long cadetship, because I went off to the Navy for a year and then I decided, no, I actually want to be in the Army. And when you do military training, you're not taught to give up. You're told you just find a way to get there. There's always a way. And swimming was my way. So the English Channel happened, and that was great, and I did different bits and pieces. The North Channel was the one that I'd always said, well, that's my home channel, that's the one I want to do. But in the years when I researched, the English Channel, I thought that looked a little bit easier. I'll try that first and we'll see how we go. The North Channel was scaring me. And then this year, it just seemed like the right thing. It was the right time to do it. And it was the right time. I immersed myself so much in the North Channel that while I am from Galway and I work in Dublin, I decided I need to move to Bangor, County Down, so that I can be closer to the North Channel, I can be more in it. And what happened in the months after I moved there are just amazing. I met the best community. I met amazing swimmers who would do anything for you. And I had such support and love in there. But at the same time, I felt like I was struggling a little bit and maybe I hadn't done enough. And that's when I came across a group of women who had a relay team that was unsuccessful across the North Channel. And I heard them talk about the glory coming from daring to begin. That's the tagline of Infinity, the piloting company that I was going to swim across the North Channel with. And I said, you know what? That's it. Daring to begin is the essence of it. And I've had this experience in my career. I went for Army Ranger Wing selection in 2016. In the history of my career, I don't remember any women going for it. That's something I wanted to do. I went and did it. Completely unsuccessful. I was back out after 24 hours, not even 24 hours, but I am so proud of myself for doing that. And I put the North Channel up there as one of those challenges. The North Channel isn't going anywhere. I'll keep going back until I get across it. And this is my experience of the North Channel. So some people may have been tracking it. Elapsed time, 14 hours and 35 minutes. Total track, 44.3 kilometres. The thing is only 34 kilometres. How did I do that? Well, that's the tides at work a little bit. If you look closely, you'll see that there's a little loop at the end. The little loop is where I didn't want to give up. I was so in the zone, I loved this swim. I really loved it. I decided I want to do more of these long swims when I was doing this swim. I knew the wheels were coming off at 10 hours. I knew there were even more coming off at 12 hours. I don't know at what point my last memory was, but I knew that memory was, I'm drowning. I knew I was sinking lower in the water, and I knew I couldn't breathe. But my brain didn't catch up and say, well, get out of the water. So for that, I had my amazing crew who pulled me right at the right time. I remember being told, your swim is over. And I said, okay, and I swam again. I did that 2 more times, and that's why there's a little loop at the end of that, because I couldn't understand that it was over. My next memory is fully clothed, sitting on the boat with an oxygen mask being put on me. And I'm still looking at Scotland saying, why are we not going there? But as I said, I will be back. I have my slot booked for next year in July. So we'll all go on the roller coaster again. But I'm very happy that I found my happy place. And I would ask you, what is yours? Thank you.